Scott Beatty. They call me the Trail Snail out here on the AT. And I've been about 1,150 miles so far.
My name's Ryan Holly. My trail name is Flying Ryan. And this is the second year I'm attempting to do this trail.
My name's Helen Devery, and I've hiked 1,150 miles so far, just over halfway on the trail. And my trail name's Motoring Along.
My name's Chad Eichen. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and my trail name's the Sherpa.
My name is Don McDougall. My trail name is Lightning Rod, and I've hiked from Springer Mountain to here, which is around 1,150 miles, I guess, so far.
My name is Charles Mixon, and my trail name is Stumpy, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
My name's Brad Danielson, trail name Tree Frog. Started in Georgia, and I've gotten here. It's about, I think about 1,100 miles or something, and hope to go all the way.
My name's Jimmy Martin. My trail name is Jimmy No Stop, and I've walked this far all the way to Port Clinton, Pennsylvania, which is over halfway, and I'm very happy to be here.
My name is Laurie Gordon, and I'm traveling under the trail name of Dr. Strange, which is very appropriate, I think. And according to this year's data book, I have hiked 1,263.1 miles.
Hi, I'm Jay Lovell. My trail name is Jambalaya. So far, I've got about 1,000 miles under my belt, and I'm hiking the AT, the Appalachian Trail.
We're Mike and Jane Chapel. Our trail name is the Camels. We started close to 4 months ago, and we've hiked about 1,250 miles from Springer Mountain.
My name's Ron.
My name's Melissa Parker.
And we're the Grist Mill Hikers, or the Gristies for short. And we've hiked also from Springer Mountain. And
started April 6th, and we've come
over 1,100 miles.
My name is Karen Nichols. I'm the pastor of the Church of the Mountain in Delaware Water Gap. And we have run a hiker's hostel here for 15 years, and I have been here 4.
Hi, my name is Robert Gerard. I'm from Manitoba, Canada, and my trail name is Gator. And the reason I call myself Gator is because I'm going south to Florida, and I wear gaiters all the time and a big green pack on my back, and I drink Gatorade all the time.
Well, my name is Dick Moyer. My trail name is DM. That's the way I sign the registers. From Madeira Beach, Florida, which is a suburb of St. Petersburg.
I'm Dan Bruce, and my name on the trail is Wingfoot. I'm currently doing my 6th AT through hike and have planned 7. I've got one next year already planned. And I've got about 15,000 AT miles and have seen about 8,000 through hikers in the last 7 years. And I've kind of seen what will work on the trail.
My name is Dave Esposito, and they call me Ringo on the trail. And I've done about 1,200 miles. I'm from Connecticut.
I'm Kathy Van. I live in Augusta, Georgia. We've been hiking the trail now, my husband and I, for about almost 9 years. And with us, we have less than 440 miles to go. So we're just doing it piecemeal, but having a great time with it.
My name is Christian Paquin. I'm from Montreal. And my trail name is just Christian de Montréal.
My name is Joel Allenbaugh. And my trail name is Moonshadow of the Trail Twins. And I've done, I guess, about 1,600 miles so far.
Well, my name is James Inglet. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. My trail name is Gons. I've traveled a little over 1,600 miles at this point.
My real name is Pat Foreman, F-O-R-E-M-A-N. I took the trail name Walkabout, and I usually sign my name P with an A-T, as in Appalachian Trail symbol.
My name is Warren Doyle. I have no trail name. I'm just plain Warren Doyle. I've walked the entire trail 8 times, which supposedly is the most that's been walked by any one individual. And I'm almost finished with my 9th hike. So I have a little bit over 18,000 miles of walking on the Appalachian Trail.
Well, when I made my decision to do the trail, I had quite a bit of the gear that I needed. I hadn't
sat down and figured out mileage or planned my mailboxes or anything like that. I do mine with a phone call. When I need my food dropped, I call and tell them where to drop it and when I'll be there. I only had about 2 weeks worth of preparation.
The only preparation for coming out here is eat as much as you can before you start and take it slow and easy. A lot of people, I think, come out and they try to do a good 15 miles a day, and really the only thing you can do is just, you know, do 8 or stop when you're tired and take it easy. Don't try to kill yourself.
I came over here 3 months before I started the trail, and we did nothing until the last 2 days. We bought gear. We got all our gear in that time. We spent a lot of time comparing what sort of gear we wanted and prices in the different stores. But you can
join the Y.
We joined the Y to get fit. It didn't do that much. Really, you can come out here, I think, if you don't have to be excessively fit. You know, the first few weeks will really get you into shape. But we were in reasonable shape. Not good shape, but reasonable shape, I think.
Much better now.
But yeah.
We did a lot of reading of the Appalachian Trail books, books that are put out by the ATC, and that really helped us understand what we were getting into. We knew it was going to be tough, and the reading experiences by other hikers really helped bring that home. And in addition, we did do some working out at the gym. Helen did a lot of swimming, and we did a lot of practice hikes too, which are really important.
I took a data book and laid out a schedule so that I'd have an idea of where to mail things to and when, based on, I think I based the schedule on 15 miles a day average hiking. And I planned it for about 8 months, seriously planned it for about 8 months, and did a lot of research for the past year before I came out. Made initial food drop packages up and have altered them some along the way, but most of what I've planned so far has pretty much come fairly well on schedule.
I like to run, and I've always run, so I just kind of stepped up my mileage, my running mileage. I also worked out on a Stairmaster a little bit, but I don't think there's anything anybody can do other than actually hiking to completely prepare for the trail, particularly the start down in Georgia, which is pretty rough. I just don't think there's any substitute other than actually getting out there and taking some practice or some shakedown type hikes.
If you got a good attitude, you don't need to prepare, really. I mean, as long as, I figured if my pack didn't weigh more than 1/3 of my body weight, then I could survive. And it was just at exactly 1/3 of my body weight, and I'm still here.
I bought my pack a month before I left. I took it out on an overnight once. It was on level land, and I almost killed myself. I don't know. I really didn't prepare that much. I sent away for information from the Appalachian Trail Conference, got all the guidebooks and the data book and the Through Hiker's Handbook, and I read through them, not the guidebooks. I guess what I did with the data book was I went through every day. I went through and decided where I would stay every night along the way. And if you look at it now, I don't know if you can see all the little dots I have, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of humorous as to where I thought I would get early on in the trip. And even now, you know, I have myself down for like 30-mile days. I'm glad that I didn't prepare my mail drops and package them all up and tape them all the way through to Maine, because there was a lot of stuff I had in my mail drops that I didn't need, that I didn't want, that didn't taste good, that was too heavy, that was just ridiculous to have. I had a rice mix, short grain whole rice, lentils, and barley, and I think I had like 3 pounds of it in every mail drop, and that stuff goes a long way. So anyway, I'm glad that I only did my mail drops up to a certain point. Then I knew what I needed, and then I've been able to tell my parents what I need, and it's worked out pretty well.
I bought insurance, Blue Cross. I never, ever in my life would have thought of getting insurance, but I thought that was kind of an extended hike, and like anything could happen. And if you get into a hospital room here in the States, you know, they say it could be $400 or $500 a day. So I found that that insurance probably would be something to have, and I've used it already once. I've had severe weight loss problems, diarrhea, lightheadedness, dizzy spells. I got into Lee and I got checked out, and I'll have my results in a couple days. But I think it's probably just fatigue from pushing myself and stuff. But I found that insurance is very, very valuable.
Being from Florida, where it's about as flat as it can possibly be, there isn't a whole lot I can do. Now, I did go out, and every weekend I would go out and try to do as much walking as possible, mainly to break the boots in.
For mental, I know it's not a publicity, but I did bought 5 million steps. And one thing that I like about this movie was you can, I mean, the video tells you all the bullshit that you will see on the trail, except poison ivy, actually. And I mean, I know when I left how much I will suffer.
If you're running to get in shape, you're working different muscles. You know, the only way to prepare yourself to carry a 50-pound pack over mountains is to carry a 50-pound pack over mountains. You know, you can't really do anything to substitute for it. You know, I mean, you kind of got to kind of do it.
If you like backpacking, just kind of take whatever backpacking you've done and extend it for about 5 to 6 months, and that's what you're getting. So if you went out for a week, take that and add a few extra weeks to it. And it's one long, continuous backpacking trip. And I hate ups. I don't care what anybody says. I hate up. I hate walking up. If it's up, I still hate it. I'll never learn to like it, but I'll do it.
I don't stay in hotels when I get to a town. I either camp or find a shelter somewhere. I do have a bad habit of staying in towns too long, but it's always in a hostel or something. It's pretty nice. Beer and pizza seems to be the big expense, but it can be done on a lot less than $2,000.
At the moment, I'm going about $800 every 2 months, so $400 a month. That's just for living expenses, and that's what I had been bargaining on. I'm probably spending a little bit more than that. I worked when I graduated from college, I worked for 2 years and saved up during that time. So I've probably saved, I've got about $4,000 to $5,000, but I don't want to use it all. That's just in case. And Chad, you were about the same. We both worked until we came out, so we had enough money saved. But I think you could do it on about between $2,500 and $3,000, depending on the amount of time you spend in town. That's where we spend our money. You don't spend anything out here, but as soon as we get into town, you can blow $100 easy. It's gone.
You go to restaurants and you go to hotels and things like that, and your money just floats away.
I generally plan on spending about $5,000 or so. I'm of the opinion that I ought to be able to indulge myself after a week or so, sleeping in the woods and roughing and all that. I ought to be able to indulge myself. Therefore, when I get close to or have the opportunity to stay at a motel or a lodge or whatever, I take advantage of it. It's fairly expensive, but you know, I feel like it's justified. I feel like I kind of deserve it after all those miles. But that does run up the cost excessively. I don't think that, in my opinion, that what we're doing over 6 months, by and large, is less expensive than the normal standard of living in town. So I'm not concerned with spending, you know, that extra money to, you know, for a few luxuries.
Because we were in one town, I got escargot, I got Guinness Stout, I got, you know, everything I could possibly think of, and you also eat twice as much of it, so you end up having, you know, this gigantic bill at the end of every town you go to.
It's been told to me that outside of gear, you should expect to pay $1 a mile to hike the Appalachian Trail, and I think that's wrong. And I've learned the hard way. I'm going to be broke by the time I'm done this. Gear and everything, I'm not sure because I had some of the stuff beforehand, but all the gear, I would say, cost between $700 and $1,000 for me, probably. And then hiking just the food you have to pay for. You have to think of the food you have to pay for that you eat on the trail, the food that you eat when you get in towns and restaurants, the lodging, the hotels you have to stay in, the film that you buy, the film that you process, there's so much, you know, the extra things that you're not ready for. Believe it, you're not going to be ready for it. You know, you're going to have some gear that really is worthless out on the trail, and you need something else, and you have to pay for it. I mean, I guess you could rough it and do without it, but if you want to have a good hike, you're going to need it, and you have to shell out the extra money for it. I think for me, it's going to cost me this year, or this hike, between $3,500 and $4,000, $3,500 and $4,000, and that kind of makes me upset because I wasn't ready for it, and I thought I'd have a little extra money left over, and I'm not going to. I'm going to have family pick me up in Maine and take me back. I know some people hitchhike back from Katahdin, but by the time I'm done, I'm not going to want to hitchhike, and I won't have money for a bus. Really, I mean, I'm going to my last dime and penny, and I think I might even have to borrow some money before I'm done.
A lot of people will bring credit cards. I have a credit card and a debit card for the automatic teller machines. And most of those teller machines are on national networks, computer networks, so you can usually always get cash. You can have somebody wire you money. I carry a little bit of green stuff too, in addition to the credit card. That is something that should not be a problem because you will plan for it. If you don't plan for it, then you should go back and think about your whole trip because, again, like it or not, you know, it's nice to think you're out in the wilderness, you don't need money, you don't need blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is you're going to need some cash along the way.
One of the things that I think I would like to suggest to hikers is that when they're thinking about money on the trail, that they seriously consider carrying traveler's checks in very small amounts, or that they carry a money access card that has lots of plus or cirrus or other kinds of ways that they can access money. The one thing I would say is not to carry cashier's checks, not to carry money orders. What we've been finding is that the banks just simply will not cash them. And so we have a lot of hikers who get here who have not been able to cash checks and have no money, and that becomes a really serious problem for them.
And I carry traveler's checks, so if they would get lost or stolen, at least I can get them replaced. And as far as financial planning, I plan on doing 90 cents a mile. So if I do long days, then I can kind of splurge and go and have a shower somewhere. But I've very seldom gone into town to shower or whatever. Some people, they stop at every hostel they can, every church they can. I find that I take a shower on the average about once every 2 weeks, but I like to go swimming. I usually wash my clothes in the lake or whatever. I go swimming with them. I'm probably not one of the best smelling hikers there are on the trail, but I find that I've been getting by pretty good.
Here's my traveler's checks. I started out with about $200 in cash and $1,000 in traveler's checks, and these are $50 denomination. I haven't had any problem cashing that size traveler's check.
Dealing with banks, try to avoid it. Get cash and traveler check, that's it.
I ran out of money. I worked full time while I was going to school to earn the money, and after equipment and everything else, I came on the trail with probably $1,000. And you know what they say is $1 a mile, and I think that works out about right, because I got about halfway with my $1,000, and that's where it ran out. And I'm just lucky to have support at home. You know, I get some food drops here and there, and get a little money here and there from different relatives, and that's pretty much what's keeping me going.
If a hiker wants almost a total woods experience with very little town visits and so on, and one can do the trail fairly inexpensively, I would say probably with a minimum of $1,200, $1,400, and that's really cutting it close. But if for a normal through hike, which means going into towns, having a restaurant meal fairly often, staying occasionally in a motel, taking advantage of the social opportunities that come up, then probably a good rule of thumb is $1 a mile, and to budget that way, maybe with a little extra toward the northern end of this trail because it's a little more expensive in New England. But as a general rule of thumb, $1 a mile. And that does not include, of course, equipment or travel to and from the trailhead. But on the trail itself, I think it's safe to budget $1 a mile, and that's good as also planning where you need money. But then, of course, with the guidebooks and the through hikers books that are available, one can plan a little more closely as to how much in each town. And of course, that would depend on lodging and how many days a person plans to stay in a town and that type of thing. But it's not an expensive trip in terms of a 6-month vacation. But I personally would recommend a minimum of $2,200 for the trip, unless one wants to go a little more Spartan, and it can be done. But most through hikers find that they enjoy the social aspects of the trail. That means having an occasional restaurant meal, having a few beers or whatever occasionally, and that type of thing. And that adds up. And I found some people really getting bummed out on the trip because they didn't have that few extra dollars here and there to take part in some of these activities, and they began to feel they were a little left out. However, I've seen a few individuals that did want that Spartan trip and didn't want any part of the social life, and they can also hike a little less expensively. There are other factors, such as whether you buy your food in bulk before you leave and mail it to yourself, and that type of thing that can vary the cost a little bit. But most people, like I say, will need around $2,200, and even most first-time through hikers spend even a little more than that, because there are opportunities that they will have one time, and they might want to spend a few extra dollars. So as far as handling finances on the trail, probably traveler's checks are the single best method of carrying money on the trail. It's the safest, of course, and just about every place on the trail. I've never heard of a place that refused a traveler's check. A lot of people, of course, using the MasterCard and Visa to get cash advances and things like that, and that's becoming more practical as we get more of the networks that will handle that type of transaction in towns near the trail. But it's still, most of the small towns, it's hard to get money, and so I would recommend traveler's checks, traveler checks. I think I still would recommend is the best way to handle money on the trail.
Well, I wear the Vask Sundowners. They're a medium weight leather boot. I really like them. They give you support, but they're not heavy like the big leather boots. They're a real good product. A lot of people are wearing these boots, and I don't know of anyone that's had some severe problems with them. I've only had 2 blisters the entire 1,100 miles so far. My camp shoes, I like those fairly near the top. That's the first thing I do is take my boots off.
These are really good trail shoes, Tevas. They slip on real nice, and they're better than, I guess, slippers because they're kind of like shoes. And if they wear out, you just call up the store and you can get another pair. These are HBB Browns. I don't know, they kind of look like dress boots. But there was a guy in Damascus who was, had a whole table full of hiking boots that were real cheap. So when I was in Damascus, I knew I was going to need a second pair, and I just tried them on and bought a second pair of boots. So far, they've worked out nice. And sometimes I keep my extra socks for switching in the middle of the day. I just got these. These are Thorlos. They're a real nice sock. They're a Wingfoot version.
Right now, I'm wearing a heavyweight hiking boot that, for the pair, probably weighs 7 pounds. This is called a Basque Whitney, and I've had this boot for 17 years, I guess. It was the boot of choice when I really started hiking a lot years ago. And it was the way bootmakers were making shoes. And I've always worn a pair like this, and cost being sort of an issue and not wanting to go out and buy new boots for this trip. I'm wearing these now. I actually have, most of the way, have worn a pair of custom-made boots made by Limmer bootmakers in Innervale, New Hampshire. And the sole split on them, so right now they're being reworked. They're a similar style heavyweight leather boot with thick lug soles, and I hope to have them back in a couple of weeks. They fit my foot better because they're a custom-made shoe. They are heavy to carry, but they're all I've ever hiked in, so it doesn't really make a difference to me. I've watched people blow out lightweight, high-tech hiking shoes all along, and haven't had a problem with blowing out a pair, so I'm not going to change.
Footwear, I'm the only one that does this that I've noticed. I wear little kind of hiking shoes. They are, these particular shoes are made by Merrell's. I already went through a pair of hiking shoes made by Vask. They are a little over a pound. They're very light, and they've got a pretty good sole on them. They're not very durable. I kind of expect to get 500 miles or so out of a pair. And in light of the fact that they are light and they're fairly inexpensive, then I just prefer to go with the hiking shoes. A lot of people wear the big leather hiking shoes, or the big hiking boots, or the high top type shoes because they need ankle support. I've never had any problems with it because I got such short, fat ankles, and I don't need the ankle support. So I just prefer the hiking shoes.
This is my 3rd pair of shoes. I like the lighter weight shoes. I've had 2 that are made by Merrell. I got these in Washington when I was there for the 4th. The soles have a tendency the treads wear out real quick. But as you can see, I like the 2 pairs of socks. They keep my feet nice and tight in there. It gets a little hot, but you're going to get hot anyway, so you might as well be comfortable.
I started out with a pair of Dunham boots, which were really heavy and suede, or kind of suede leather, and they weighed a lot. They must have weighed 6 pounds, and I finally got rid. They were something that I had before I started out, and I hadn't realized that they had kind of dried out and tightened up on my foot. I thought I wore them around enough before I started out, but I guess I didn't, and I got a lot of blisters from them. And so finally I bought a pair of boots from LL Beans, and these are Cresta hikers, and I would say they're supposed to be for rugged terrain hiking, and they've worked pretty well. I like them.
These boots were made by the Merrell Company. I've had them maybe 7 years or so. I've worn them on other trips. And as you can see, the Pennsylvania rocks really did a job on them. I'm going to try and get them resoled, or I may just have to get a new pair of boots. From Springer Mountain, where I started, up to Harper's Ferry, I was wearing some medium weight boots by High Tech, combination leather and fabric, and they did pretty well, I think. When they get wet, they dry out fairly quickly. I don't think you need a real heavy leather boot like this for down south. For the rocks in Pennsylvania, as I think anyone who has traveled through it can tell you, you need something a little stronger. In addition to the ankle support that you get from these, a lot of the rocks are really sharp and they can cut in. If you were wearing a pair of lighter weight boots, the rocks could go right through the fabric, and that's where the leather really helps you in Pennsylvania. And I also wear some extra padding. These are Spenkos, which you can probably get in any sporting goods store.
Somebody asked me about my shoes the other day. They're Merrell shoes. They're basically the wilderness type. A lot of people have had problems with them on the trail. The soles right inside here and right down here will pop off. Mine started happening right around Duncannon, and what I did there is I went into Duncannon. There was a cobbler there, and I had them put new soles on because they're pretty worn. But if you can see, I had them nail them all the way around. Now that adds about a good 4 to 5 ounces, maybe even a half a pound onto my boots. But so far they've held up. I'm happy with them. I still consider them cruel shoes though, because they'll tell you when you've gone 10 miles. You'll cry when you've gone 15 miles, and by the time you do 20 miles, your feet will throb until the morning when you wake up. And the worst thing in the world is when you get up in the morning and you step on your feet for the first time, it shockwaves through your body. My gaiters, I got these just down south of the Shenandoah National Park. I had a pair of small ones, but they didn't really keep the water out. These right here keep the water out very nicely. They also do a good job of keeping the rocks out. They usually end up to here, especially when it rains, or when you're going through what we call car wash, which is weeds that are up to here, or weeds that are up to your waist. It might be dry out that day, but with the dew and everything, you get a lot of water in your legs, and they actually come up like this. They fit in there really nice. They keep the rocks out and stuff like that.
One of the biggest concerns I had was financial. I decided I had to make this trip on around $1,200 because I just couldn't come up with a whole lot more money than that. So most of the decisions I've made have been based on money. If we take a look at the equipment I'm using, for example, the boots. These are Sears boots. I've hiked tomorrow it'll be 1,400 miles I've hiked in these boots, and they're holding up real well. I haven't had any problem with them. These were $38 boots. The only consideration I had was that they had to be leather, full leather uppers, and other than that, I just want something that's going to last. Okay, and as you can see, the soles are holding up real well. I don't have any kind of problem with them, but I do wax them a lot. Usually about once a week, I'll put some wax or some oil on them to keep them soft. Now, I wore these boots for almost 100 miles before I started on the trail. And I also put a lot of oil, a lot of wax in them to get them good and soft so that they fit themselves to my feet. It's still not the same as walking on the trail, but it's a big help. And I've had no problems with blisters, just minor ones, but a little tape over them, that took care of it.
These are my camp shoes, which is really lightweight sandals. These are a lot lighter weight than the Tevas or Birkenstocks, and they've lasted me this far. I'm pretty happy with them. The reason I got the open shoes like this is because when you get blisters, like actually I have one right now on the top of my toe because those are new shoes, and I don't know if you can see it, but when you have blisters, you really want something that's open, I think, and then I can use these in the shower too. The one thing they don't work well is if you're in a town where you need to do a lot of walking, you're going to either have to wear your hiking boots or you live with these. Like in Petersburg, you had to maybe walk a mile or two to get to different places. And there comes a point where walking around in these sandals or flip-flops is hazardous. Those are some of the things to think about when looking for shoes. How far do you think you'll be walking? A lot of people have those aqua socks, but you know, I think if you're going to have aqua socks, they're fairly heavy. You might as well look for a very lightweight pair of running shoes. That would be sort of my advice if you want to have the ability to walk more. But I'll tell you that I've used these in many a shower, and I've also, walked in the water with them, and they dry nice, and I just stick them in my pack wet, where I guess if you had running shoes, you'd be limited as to whether you could put them in the shower, take them into the shower with you. So that's the whole fun of this, is making those kinds of choices. That's what makes the trail so exciting, I guess, and you can be a unique person. Like these shoes, I started out with the mid-weight Vasks, and I found that when you get to the hot weather, like today, it's supposed to be 97 and humid. Back before Cloverdale, we had a stretch of hot days. My feet, all of a sudden, and I was wearing a single pair of socks with those Vasks, full leather uppers, fairly lightweight boots, my feet were just turning all red because they just didn't breathe well enough. And that's why I said, fine, I'm going to get the lighter weight boots. And so I have these, they're high-techs, they're all right, but I'm not as happy with the protection from rocks as I thought. I thought I'd have more protection than I'm getting as far as a strong sole.
This is all my foot, care, just because I've been breaking in a new pair of boots. My boots went kaput. They're Timberland, by the way. They're not a bad boot. I'm pretty satisfied with them. I called the company, said what I was doing, said that the boots were going on me, and they sent me a brand new pair free. So I, it was worth it. One thing that I really like is second skin, which not a lot of people use that I've seen, but it's like a gel pad, and you put it on if you have a blister. You put it on at night, and I don't know, they say you're not supposed to walk with it, you just use it at night and then use the moleskin or whatever during the day. But it actually heals it, it's a medicated gel pad, it actually does something. You're not just covering it up. And another thing that works really well are the callus cushions, or the bunion cushions, which are, let me see if I can get one that's actually out. I guess not. Well, it's like a circle, and then there's a hole cut in the middle, so instead of just covering up a blister, you cover around it so that, you release the pressure. Because if you just pat it, you're just building more pressure, and you're going to hurt yourself more.
One thing I've learned about sizing boots, and it seems that this very fundamental mistake, I don't know exactly where the problem comes from, but very few people know how to size their boots. The trick that I've learned from a couple of very good people, very interested in fitting the hikers, Jeff Hansen being one, and I've heard Mr. Limmer of Limmer Boots does the same thing, that when you put your foot in your boot unlaced and kind of tap it up against the wall, you should be able to slide 2 fingers behind your heel. And what this does is when you cinch your foot back in your boot, it allows you room in the front, so when you're going down the hill that you don't jam your toes together. It seems like not too many people realize this, because a lot of people have serious blistering problems, and even if they go to another pair of boots, you see the same person having the same problems.
I don't think there's any pair of boots that'll last the entire trip, no matter what they say.
Every year there's a certain boot make that is the rage of everybody, and then it seems like a year or two later you find that same boot falling apart for everybody. The 3 main types of boots that are used are the very lightweight sneaker type boots. Those work well for a lot of people, including myself. I have strong legs and strong ankles, and I love the flexibility of having a lightweight boot. Other people seem to enjoy having a full leather boot, a heavier boot, to protect them from the abrasion of rocks and things of that sort. Plus they feel it gives better support. And my only suggestion there is that you just try on a lot of boots, and preferably with a loaded pack if you can do that. You might have to walk into the outfitter with your pack loaded and try on boots, but I would suggest that you do so, because you'll get a true idea of how that boot's going to feel on the trail. The important thing to look for in a boot as far as fit is to make sure that you have enough room when you are loaded, because your foot will spread a little bit, and to make sure that you have enough toe room, but also you want to make sure that the boot has enough support in the front so that when you lunge forward, as you will going downhill, you won't slide forward. You also want to make sure that the heel cup fits the shape of your heel, because if it rides high or low, it'll cause you problems. and all the break-in in the world probably won't correct that. The best thing to do as far as boots, breaking them in, is to get in them and walk and walk and walk and walk. There's no substitute for that. I know on my first hike I made the mistake of thinking if I don't use my boots too much, they'll last longer on the trail. Well, the boots went quite a bit further than my feet did on that trip, and I suffered with blisters in the early part of the trip. Breaking in boots is very important. You'll probably need at least 2 pair for the trip. That doesn't mean you have to buy 2 pair, but at least be prepared to buy a second pair along the way. And it's probably a good idea to have 2 pair to start and try to get them both as broken in as possible. I've used as many as 5 sets of the lightweight boots, although I've gotten as much as 800, 900 miles out of a pair of lightweight boots. The full leather boots will often give quite a bit of more wear, although not necessarily so. There are people that have gone the whole distance in just about every brand of boot made, and there are other people that have only gotten 400 miles out of them, so there's no way to predict. It depends on your hiking style, and some people are just rougher on boots than others. So be prepared to buy at least a second pair and possibly a third pair along the way somewhere. And it's not hard to find boots as you go along. You can order them from the mail order places and have them sent ahead, and or even arrange to have your outfitter back home mail a pair of the same boots that you started in if they're working well for you. Socks are another important item. I personally carry as many as I can justify weight-wise because I like to change every day. But you should carry either a lot of socks or be prepared to wash and clean your socks often. As to whether you wear wool socks with a liner or one of the synthetic socks, here again, that's personal preference. If possible, buy your boots and socks together so that they will be compatible. People get into a lot of trouble trying to change to a different sock thickness in the middle of their hike. And so it's good to buy those together and make them one system that fit well.
I like the mesh bag because I can just pick it up and look through it. I don't have to empty it out or rummage through it. I keep my breakfasts in here. Most of the time I have a Carnation instant breakfast and a Pop-Tart. That's my usual breakfast. And I have a peanut butter and tuna fish and cheese and honey that I keep in here for my lunches. This is my dinners in here. I also keep my powdered milk in here. I have Lipton. What I eat mostly is the Lipton noodles and sauce, or minute rice. That's what I eat the most of, or somebody else's food. What I think is pretty good for lunch is the English muffins with peanut butter. Just put peanut butter and honey on them. 2 of those will load you down till dinner.
I like to eat cereal in the morning, Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios, because they're you don't really add sugar to them, and they're very light food. I just mooched some oatmeal off of people, so I've been eating oatmeal for a couple days. And just keep all my dinners in one bag, and breakfast is in one bag, and lunch I usually keep on my side pockets here. I just added them this year. Last year I found out that I was digging through my pack so much that I put side pockets on them. And I keep my lunches and snacks in there, so I just go through that.
Inside my pack, I've got my food bag. When we started out, we were carrying I haven't got very much food just now, we were carrying about 5 days worth of food. Now we carry 3 days maximum because there's so many small towns through this area that we can resupply in that it seems pointless to carry a lot of food. We have mail drops, perhaps not as many as everybody else. I think we have 11 through the whole trail, one every 200 miles usually. And then sometimes we have too much in the mail drops which we forward ahead to other post offices just along the trail. But I'd say generally we carry 2 to 3 days worth of food just now. There's not a lot in that, as you can see.
A lot of people think that freeze-dried is the only way to go, and there are a few people that do carry freeze-dried food. For us, it wasn't really an option because they're extremely expensive, and we've found everything we need at your basic grocery store. For lunches, for instance, since we're only going about 2 or 3 days between grocery stores, we carry cold meats and bread and cheese, and that'll last a couple days, and we haven't really gotten into the peanut butter routine or some of the other typical hiker foods that you would think of. We eat pretty well at dinners. We carry cans of chicken and tuna, which we add to either rice or ramen noodles or mac and cheese, and it fills us up and gives us all the calories and protein that we need. And when we get into town, that's when we load up on fruits and other vegetables, that sort of thing.
Macaroni and cheese, Lipton noodles and sauce. I carry a squeezed parquet always out of town until that's gone. A pepperoni stick, and that usually keeps pretty well. Usually out of town I'll buy a stick of cheese and that'll last me a couple of days. In the heat it doesn't stand up as well, but if you eat it quickly it's good. I carry a couple of bags of Gorp, and it's sort of my own mixture of peanuts and M&Ms and raisins and dates and almonds and sunflower kernels, which is a good lunch snack type item. Usually out of town I'll carry some sort of bag of small candy bars, either Snickers bars or Hershey's miniatures or something like that. Those generally don't last very long. Candy bars get wolfed pretty fast and passed around and the whole bit. So I always carry a jar of peanut butter with me. Early on I was carrying jelly, but I got to not like the way it gets messy after a time and it gets compacted into bags, so it makes for sticky bags and stuff, so I stopped carrying the jelly. But I always have peanut butter and crackers with me, always at least for lunch.
I prefer for breakfast when it was cold, I preferred grits. I'm the South. I prefer grits. I was obligated to wear grits around all these Yankees. Now that it's gotten hot, I prefer cereal with powdered milk and honey. For lunch, I just eat candy bars generally all day long. I don't really have a set lunch per se. I just munch on candy bars. Here lately it's been so hot, my candy bars are melting, so I'm into peanut butter now. For dinner, I go with, I prefer Lipton's noodles. They have a whole host of different varieties, perhaps a dozen different varieties, and they're pretty good, and they're inexpensive, and they're fairly easy to find in the grocery stores. And then I'll put a can of tuna fish or whatever in there to kind of spice them up and fill out the meal.
It's a pound of butter, and it goes really fast, and I need the calories. And I use more than I need in that's asked for in the directions. And it doesn't go bad. Sometimes I don't use a lot of butter, and I'll have the thing out 2 weeks, and it'll be in the sun. You know, I mean, it'll be a warm day, and it doesn't go bad. I don't know why. Also, a Citadel spread, which is peanut butter, equal parts peanut butter and powdered milk, and a little bit of honey and some bacon grease all mixed up, and they make a kind of a spread. You can make it any way, like thinner or thicker, and I would make it thick, and it would hold in a Ziploc bag, and I would eat that. And that was good for me to keep on the calories. It was pretty well packed with calories. Now I just can't get enough to eat after, you know, I just can eat forever. All you can eat food bars in towns and restaurants, they lose money on me, and might be surprising because people keep telling me that that I look really skinny and I've lost a lot of weight. Well, I have. When I started out, I lost 15 pounds in the first month or so, and then I gained back 5 pounds, and now I've kept it around there. I weigh 150 pounds, and I'm 6'4", and I should weigh a lot more than that.
I get all my food, at least the food that I don't yogi for tourists, at stores along the trail. There are quite a few people out there who pre-package a lot of food and have it mailed to them on the trail. I know Vegemite and Dr. Marmot from Philly are vegetarians. They bought a dehydrator and made themselves a couple hundred meals and are having them shipped to them at various points along the trail about, I think, every 10 days or so. I guess they left it with their parents or whoever and a schedule so they know where and when to mail the stuff. And back when I was hiking with them a bit in the Smokies, they had some leftover dinner, which they kindly gave me one night, and it was really tasty. I like a lot of vegetables, and they had made a dinner of lentils and maybe some chickpeas or something, and it was a really nice dinner. If I had planned my trip more in advance, I probably would have done something like that. As it so happens, I've been thinking about hiking the AT for quite a while, but the actual decision I made, I think, in March of this year, and I was on the trail 1 month later, so I really didn't have time to go into a lot of food preparation. I think it would have made the hike a lot nicer if I had. I've read that you need something like 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day at least. A normal sedentary person eats about 2,000, I think. You may need as much as double or triple that at sometimes, depending on how you feel, what the terrain is, and that type of thing. So I start out the day usually with some grape nuts. If I'm in a big hurry, maybe I'll just have a quick Pop-Tart or even just go out on the trail, have a little water, and then just head out. Especially if the shelter is crowded. You don't want to hang around and eat while everybody's getting ready. So sometimes I'll just push off, do a few miles, and then settle in and have some breakfast.
I basically eat peanut butter for breakfast. I eat peanut butter for lunch with crackers. I eat freeze-dried fruit for dinner. And occasionally I carry fresh fruit. Fortunately, every 2 or 3 days, or maybe 5 days, I have town that you can pig out on. And that's what you want to do.
I've settled on some fairly basic meals right now. In the beginning, I carried a lot of canned food with me, tuna, some small cans of canned meat, things like that. But now I've settled down to where it's mainly oatmeal for breakfast, and as you can see, I start putting things into bread bags because it's easier to use them. And these seal-type bags, you know, where you run your finger across and seal them on top, they work great for about a week to 2 weeks, and after that, they just quit working. So bread bags work out better as far as I'm concerned. So in the morning, I use brown sugar and oatmeal. That's basically what my breakfast is. For snacks, I just can't get enough peanut butter and bread. And I combine that with cookies. So anytime when I feel like I'm a little weak, need something to eat, peanut butter and bread or cookies. That's basic. For lunch, it's either ramen noodles or like I say, peanut butter and bread. For dinner, I use almost any kind of pasta. It could be macaroni, it could be spaghetti, any kind like that. I just boil the water, drop it in there, and then I'll flavor that with different kinds of soup or bouillon. I've even used sloppy Joe mixed in with that. I'll thicken it also with instant mashed potatoes. Let's see what else I have in here. That's basically it, soup and any different kind of flavoring that, you know, that spices it up a little bit and thickens it up. I can't do without coffee, so I use instant coffee in here. Carry vitamins, take vitamins every day. I guess it's supposed to be good for me, so I do it. Salt and pepper shakers, I had a lot of trouble with them spilling inside the pack. So I ended up getting 2 match cases, and salt in one, pepper in the other, and they work very well.
Another thing is if you're into health food, right now there's not a lot of resources on the trail for finding, say, specialty health food items like vegetable protein. I have a lot of mail drops. So I solved the vegetarian problem by working predominantly with mail drops.
We have people that have lived on ramen noodles for practically the whole trip. We have people that cook rather elaborately. We have vegetarians on the trail. And I think the best thing there to do is just to refer to some of the good hiking books and see the range of food. Go visit a grocery store and look at the things that are available, and then plan your meal from there. A lot of people will use freeze-dried. Others will use items strictly from the grocery store. Either one works well, just depending on your personal preferences and the pocketbook. I would suggest that you not buy all of your food before the trip. I've seen people just almost go screaming into the woods after their 153rd day of oatmeal, or in my case, banana chips. I used to love banana chips, no longer, because I ate them every day for 6 months, and now I don't care for banana chips anymore. But food is something that really is very, very personal, and I would recommend that you try to buy off of grocery store shelves and suit your own taste. Try to balance nutrition, but generally speaking, you're going to eat such huge quantities of food that it's not as critical as one would think. It's fairly easy to get the basic protein requirement. Fats are hard to take. You'll have to do a little planning to get fats, but there are a lot of items that are easy to carry, such as peanut butter and nuts and things like that have a lot of fats in them. And then the carbohydrates, you just need to balance those off with simple and complex and so on, so that you'll have a good sustained energy level all day. Most people just heat water for breakfast. Very few people cook elaborate breakfasts, and if you do plan to cook a more detailed breakfast, you'll find yourself getting off later in the morning and getting behind, mentally behind or psychologically behind at the start of the day, and most people try to avoid that and eat something very simple for breakfast. And like I say, mostly just boil water and mix it with some kind of hot cereal mix, or just drink tea and eat something, some type of dry things, even Pop-Tarts or things like that. So it's best to be simple with breakfast. And then most people don't even cook lunch unless it's really cool weather. They just eat some type of prepared foods that requires no cooking. Most people also look forward to a hot dinner, and that has no more nutrition, of course, than cold food, but psychologically it's really important, and I think that's one of the areas you need to concentrate on is good dinners. Things that will be satisfying and tasty, and something you can look forward to at the end of the day. It's a real psychological boost on a hard day to think of some great meal that you can have when you get into camp. And so some attention should be given, especially to dinners. But lunches you can almost plan as you go along and buy from stores as you go along to suit your taste, because it'll change during the trip, and you can add a lot of variety. Breakfast, keep it simple. Those are just basic rules that I found work well on the trail. When planning suppers, it's important to plan as simple a supper as possible, in the sense that a one-pot dinner that can be cooked in a crowded shelter on a rainy night should be your goal. Thank goodness you don't have that often, but it's just simple to, it's just good to keep it simple so that whatever situation you run into, you can handle it without having to disrupt everybody around you and cause yourself major inconvenience. And you cook some pretty good one-pot meals and then supplement them with other things. And that's what I would suggest for the trail.
Generally, two schools of thought out here. One school of thought is to go with a little bit bigger, heavier pack and perhaps indulge yourself with equipment, maybe more clothes, more food, what have you. The other school of thought is to go lighter and a bit more Spartan with your equipment. Now, I subscribe to the latter school, where you go a little bit lighter. So I've got a real light pack. It's a Gregory ultra light pack. It's a little over 4 pounds. As I understand, it's one of the lightest packs on the market. And it's an internal frame, which generally internal frames are are lighter, they are generally considered to be more comfortable. However, they make you sweat. The wraps on them they make you sweat a little bit more, and they're not as convenient to pack. But anyway, this is my pack. It's a, by the way, I ordered this out of a black and white catalog. All my friends out here give me a bunch of grief about the color of this thing, but I did not know. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This pack has a top compartment that you access from the back here, and I kind of keep my incidental stuff, like my maps and my Thru Hiker's Handbook and my data book and toilet paper and my rain cover and candy bars that I eat throughout the day. I generally keep stuff in here that I need to access during the day, which avoids having to access the interior compartment. And the zipper for that is back here. Now, as far as water bottles, I don't drink that much water, so I just have 2 old Army canteens, and I also have the old-fashioned military cups on the canteens, which suffices my mess kit. They will hold whatever meal, whatever serving size I need, and they'll fit on top of a stove quite conveniently. And when I can carry them on the outside of the canteen like that, it saves room in the pack. And I have a couple of those. Now, inside the pack, I try to compartmentalize. In other words, I try to use ditty bags to contain whatever stuff I have, so I don't have a bunch of loose stuff in here. Another wrap, well, as I mentioned before, one of the wraps on the internal frame is difficult to load and unload. An external frame has compartments and what have you that you can access from the outside of the pack. Well, on an internal frame, you've got to go down through the top every time you need something. Anyway, what I've got here is I prefer moccasins. A lot of people prefer tennis shoes or flip-flops. I prefer moccasins for being around camp in the evenings. I have a 3/4 length Thermarest self-inflatable mattress. Everybody says, well, they prefer full length because they like to have enough length for the feet and what have you. Well, in my size and lack of stature, I only need 3/4 length Thermarest. This is a little pouch I have that contains my camera and letters and writing stuff, and also my medical stuff. I don't carry but some tape and some Band-Aids and some moleskin. I don't have a real big first aid bag or necessities. What I do have is in here. This is my food bag that is kind of heavy. Because it's the first part of the week, and generally I'll carry maximum be 8 or 10 pounds of food. I prefer to buy food in whatever community or town I'm in, as opposed to having food sent to me on my mail drops. I don't like to be obligated to a particular mail drop schedule, and I don't like to be obligated to a particular menu. I like to be able to vary my menu, and buying food as I go along the way allows me to do that. Now, I use a Peak 1 camp stove, which is a popular stove, perhaps not the most popular, but certainly one of the most popular. It is it operates on Coleman fuel or white gas. This particular model can operate on unleaded gas, I understand. Some guys run unleaded gas through their stoves. I prefer this stove because it's a little bit heavier than most of the other stoves, but I prefer it because you can adjust the flame, and it's real simple. It's virtually idiot-proof, and you're talking to an idiot when it comes to these contraptions. So, I prefer the Peak 1. Next, I have my my sleeping gear. Initially, I started with a zero-rated bag, sleeping bag, back in Georgia. back in April. And then I got a higher rated bag, a 35-degree rated bag, and then it got real hot. So now all I have is a little sleeping bag liner and a sheet, which suffices fairly well. Here lately it's gotten kind of cool, kind of nippy a couple of nights, and I've had to wear everything I'm carrying in order to stay warm. But I prefer this wrap because it's smaller and it's lighter. This is a little bitty bag I have from all of my, just my toothbrush and pins and cord and just what flashlight, just incidental stuff. Then I have my well, actually I wrap up my clothes in this in my ground cloth, and I wrap up my sleeping bag in a trash bag. The worst thing in the world is to have wet clothes and wet sleeping bags, in my opinion, and I prefer to take extra precautions to make sure they stay dry. So in addition to my rain cover on my pack and the pack, I'll put them in a trash bag or in my ground cloth to make sure they stay dry. Anyway, I've got my clothes here. I personally carry a couple pair of shorts, 2 or 3 t-shirts, 1 long shirt, 1 long pair of rain pants, which suffices as my city pants, and 2 or 3 pair of socks. And then a rain jacket. Okay, I prefer to carry a tarp. Most guys or most folks carry tents, but seeing as I like to go light and I prefer to stay in the shelters, I don't tent out very often. Matter of fact, in probably 3 months, I've tented out 3 times. So I prefer to go with a little tarp. It's a little nylon tarp. I've got some little stakes here, and the whole kit and caboodle weighs perhaps a pound, maybe a little bit more than a pound. Most tents, or the lightest tent I know of, is about 3 pounds, and most of them are a little bit heavier than that. And that's really about it. Fuel bottle, I go with the smallest fuel, one of the smallest fuel bottles available. There again, I feel like, you know, the convenience of going light with a smaller bottle justifies not having a whole lot of fuel. It is a bit of a pain sometimes. I have to hustle up Coleman's fuel in town, but that's my preference. Anyway, totally, first part of the week, I think I'll be around 35 pounds, loaded down with food.